Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, I'm Akbar. Here I want to explain the story of the film called Pursuit of Happiness. The main character of the film is Chris Gardner, who sells medical device for a living. In San Francisco, 1981, Chris and his wife Linda spent all his saving money for buy medical device for being the only one distributor in the city. Unfortunately, Chris didn't know in that time the medical devices are really expensive and unnecessary for doctor. As a daily routine, Chris dropped off his son, Christopher, to a daycare. After that, Chris heads to various hospitals that might need what he's selling. As Chris' problem is that he needs to sell at least two devices a month to get by. But almost every hospital sees the device as expensive and unnecessary. Because of this, he has to ask his wife Linda to pick up their son at the daycare. This is despite Linda working at the double shift. That night, while having dinner, Chris sees a Rubik cube, which at that time is still a new toy. Linda asks him if he has already paid the taxes, and Chris tells her that he has to file another extension, making Linda more stressed before going back to work. After Linda leaves, Chris tries to solve the Rubik cube, but finds it reasonably easy. The following day, while walking down the street, he sees a businessman with a nice car. Chris asks the man what he does for a living, and the man tells him that he is a stockbroker. After After Chris comments that the job needs high education, the man responds by saying that is not required because one only has relied on his math and social skill. After the brief interaction, Chris narrates that people around him are so happy. Why he couldn't be like that? The morning after Chris tells Linda the morning after Chris tells Linda that he's going home at 6 because he will apply to be a stockbroker. Linda thinks it's ridiculous, which is something that Chris does not appreciate. They then argue with Linda, telling Chris that they have 2 months of rent to pay. Afterwards, Chris heads to brokerage firm to apply. However, Chris leaves his medical device to a street performer because he does not want to go inside carrying it. Chris calls this part of his life being stupid. Sure enough, while he is applying for the job, he sees from behind the boys that the street performer is running away with the device, prompting Chris to quickly leave while carrying the application form. However, the street performer managed to get away via train. The following day, Chris promised Linda that he will sell the device to not to see it anymore. He then brings Christopher to a daycare, where Chris tells him that the word of happiness does not have a Y in it. Afterward, Chris heads to then writer Reynolds with a filled up the application form, personally delivering it to Dean Writer's research head, Jay Twistle. However, their interaction is brief because Jay is in a hurry. After dropping off the application from Chris, sees the street performer and her accomplice carrying the stolen device. Chris angrily chases them, narrating that he has spent his entire life saving on it, so losing one is worth a month's groceries. After chasing the two, he finally gets his device back. However, the problem is that he now has two devices, which is far cry from his earlier promise that he's going to get rid of it. Later that day, sure enough, Linda sees the two devices get thoroughly disappointed after giving their son a basketball for for his birthday. Chris talks to Linda about what happened earlier, but Linda does not want to hear it, and in the next day, Chris talks to Jay while he's hailing at a taxi. Chris tells him about the application form that he submitted a month ago, but Jay tells him he has to go somewhere. Chris then takes this as an opportunity to talk to Jay by telling him that he is going to the same place as Jay. Because of this, they both take the same taxi. Inside the taxi, Jay is focused on solving the Rubik Cube, while Chris is talking about his skill and personality. Noticing this, Chris asks to solve the cube and Jay does not believe him. However, Chris finished the cube just before Jay dropped off, impressing Jay. However, he leaves Chris behind, which means that Chris has to pay the fare stopping at the stoplight. Chris makes a run for it and successfully escapes via train, but he leaves behind his device after the train door closed. On his end that day, Chris calls Linda to apologize for being on time. Furious that she missed her shift, Linda tells Chris that she and Christopher are leaving. Sure enough, Chris goes home to find his wife and son gone. However, just then he received a call from Jay telling him to write down his secretary number so that they can talk tomorrow because there is no pen and paper nearby. Chris has to memorize the number and go to a nearby store to write it down on paper. At the following day, Chris confronts Linda, who has just dropped off their son at the daycare. After Linda tells him that she's not happy anymore, Chris allows her to leave, but she cannot take their son later that day. Chris brings his son home. That night, the landlord asks Chris for a rent, but Chris pleads with him to let him stay here for a while. To pay him, the landlord agrees to let him stay for 10 days. In addition, Chris will paint their room himself. The next day, while painting the walls white, a knock is heard at the door opening. Chris sees two policemen who tells him to go with them to the station. Chris pays for the parking ticket at the police station, but the police officer tells him that it will verify at 9, 9 past 13 in the morning. Chris has no choice but to call Linda to take care of their son while he's gone for the day. Linda accepts, but on the condition that she's going to return their son late. Because of this, he stays at the station for the night. The following day, Chris runs for the interview at Dean Writers. Because he has no time to change, he goes there still wearing his clothes from yesterday. There, Chris arrives, much to the noticeable disappointment of the panel. He then tells the panel, without sugarcoating it, that he got arrested yesterday for failing to pay parking tickets. As the interview progressed, the head, Mr. J. Form seems to be unimpressed with Chris. However, in the end, Chris managed to make the panel laugh. Afterwards, Jay congratulates Chris for successful interviewing without wearing formal attire. However, Chris tells him that he will think about the job because he learns that there is an intern period where he will not be paid at all. But Jay urges him to continue. After the interview, Chris heads to his house waiting for his wife and son to arrive. Linda arrives with Christopher a little bit later. That night, while Christopher is asleep, Linda tells Chris that he's heading to New York to work as a waiter. Chris agrees, but only if their son stays with him. Linda believes that Chris can take care of their son. She tearfully leaves them for good. The following day, the father and son move 2 blocks down to a nearby motel. With the help of Chris' friend, because it is Saturday, Chris invites his son to come play basketball. While shooting at the ball, Christopher tells his father that he dreams of going pro basketball player. Chris, however, tells his son that he might not have a chance, so he should stop aiming for something like that. Chris then sees how his son's attitude changed, seeing this effect of what he said too. His son Chris encouraged and his son not to let other people tell him that he cannot do something, not even him. They then head to a hospital to sell their medical device, and the hospital agrees to buy the device. They have three by securing the father and son less a bit of money to get by. The following day, Chris heads to the internship to learn about the trade during the lunch break. During the lunch break, Chris meets the from greet from in the street. However, their conversation has to be cut short because Chris spots the device he left behind during his earlier escape from the taxi driver. Chris then chases after the guy carrying the device but fails because he gets hit by a car. While he can stand, Chris finds out that he lost his shoes, so he returns to the program with a missing shoe. Afterwards, the film shows various scenes where Chris has ordered around all the time to buy this and that. In the next scene, Chris seems to have no success with the names on his cheeks. He then decides to immediately jump to the company's CAO in hopes that something might happen with that. Luckily, he gets an opportunity to have a meeting with the CAO. As he is running out of the building, his internship boss, Mr. Fracas, unluckily asks him to park his car somewhere. Because of this, Chris misses the meeting that night. While eating at dinner. Chris tells his son to assist him tomorrow a trip. He only confides with him to come when he tells his son that they might possibly to go to a football game. The following morning, Chris goes to house of the CEO he called earlier, Mr. Ribbon. He then thanked to Mr. Ribbon for the opportunity yesterday, although he missed it. Mr. Ribbon then invites the father and son come with them because Chris tells him they are going to the football game. Seeing this as an opportunity, Chris and Christopher go with Mr. Ribbon and his son. During the game, Mr. Ribbon tells him that while he likes Chris, there is no change that he's going to accept his offer. The upside of this is that Chris gets to talk with Mr. Ribbon and his businessman friends. While things seems to go great, all of this change when on a particular day. The ERS takes some money from Chris Bank's account as payment for his unpaid taxes. Because of this, he is now broke to have a bit of money. Chris asks his friend for the money he owes him. However, his friend talks that is already paid and they drove the father and son to the motel. Chris becomes frustrated with the prompting his friend to close the door on him. Later that day, Chris sees and finally retrieves the device that he has left earlier. Then immediately head to the place to sell the device, only to find out it's broken. While the hospital, I will still pay for it when it get fixed. When it get fixed, Chris feels distressed. That night, they get home to the motel to find their things outside their room. Chris attempts to open the door, but the look has changed. With no other option, Chris and his son have to move again despite being tired. They end up in a train station where Christopher and notes that the device father is holding isn't a time machine. However, Chris and his son are playing with the medical device as a time machine and trying to get Christopher happy. And after that, however, at the end of the intern program, uh, Chris called to the CAO and get a job get a job for his company, and then Chris really happy in that day. The moral of the film is uh, there is no matter how many times you are get broke, or you are get something bad happens to you. You just have to run your life, and don't feel be stressed, and don't ever give up. I think that's all from me. Thanks for the attention. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.